Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Hunter x Hunter episode 124. And this episode, this chapter, this episode starts off with those dudes that Shower Poof hypnotized. They're still, standing. They're still standing outside apparently. I thought it's like they haven't even been touched or anything. I guess Dragon Dive didn't do anything to them. I just thought that was funny. Like these, after all the stuff that's been going on, they're still standing there like they just got finished reading a chapter of Bjorg Trinity or something. Like they're just. I just thought that was funny that they're still standing there. But after that, we see Killua. He finishes charging himself up, and he leaves, and he's on his way to Gon, but he doesn't get there because he ends up running into Palm. He senses her watching him, but doesn't know who it is. He knows it's someone he knows somehow. I guess he can tell that the aura seems familiar, yet not the same because her aura's been changed, I would assume, after becoming Chimera Ant. But it's still it's not completely different, but it's like a mixture of two different auras, I guess. It's not the same. It's not like copy paste, but it's more like copy and then cut half of it and then add something else there. Like it's like there are parts of it that he can recognize, but not enough where he can say like, this is probably someone I know, but I just can't figure out who it is. That's how at least I'm taking it. And he figures out that it's someone he knows, and it ends up being Palm. And when he sees Palm, it's obvious, that they experimented on her and did stuff to her. And he starts to think like, I can't let Gon see her like this, because after what happened with Kite, if he sees that they did something to Palm too, then that's it. He's done. Gon has fallen into the darkness on some Sasuke crap, alright? Like, there is nothing that can be done to save him after that. Pito can talk all she wants. She can say, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, just let me finish healing Komugi. It's not going to matter. Gon is going to be filled with blind rage, and he will not hear a single thing that anyone says, and he will not stop until Pito is dead, and Shawapoof is dead, and Yuppie is dead, and Miram is dead, and that entire place has fallen to the freaking ground. Alright? And even then, he still might not recover. Alright, so Killua, that's obviously not something that we want, okay? But before figuring, if he thinks it might be okay for Paul to see Gon as long as she's like still herself, Like, she might have been altered on the outside, but as long as she's still like the same person on the inside, then that might be okay for Gon to see her then. Because, as Killua says later on in the episode, Palm is like the only one who can bring him back. So he pretty much tries to figure out whether or not it's possible for her to fill that role. He tries to figure out if she is in fact an ally or if she's an enemy. Okay? And he's cautious of her because she was watching him, so like clearly there's something suspicious about that, and he starts to figure out like how exactly she was watching the entire time, and he's reminded of her ability with like the crystal ball and stuff. If I'm right. I'm in M&M's. If I'm right, I believe her ability worked where when she sees somebody, she is then able to track their movements and actions using her crystal ball, but she needs to see them in order for her ability to activate. So Killua thinks like, what I'm thinking is that when she became a Chimera Ant, things kind of got reset or something. Either that or there was a limit. Like, it was like she could only keep track of like 1 or 2 people at once or something like that. There's some reason why she can't track Gon's movements. She can't use her power on Gon. That's why That's why he begins getting suspicious at first, getting suspicious again, I should say. All right, because once he realizes that she remembers him and Gon, he's like, oh well, obviously she's not like Kite, so maybe he assumes that that was like the only way they could control her, which was naive, but can't blame him. He did realize his mistake though. He thought that because what Kite didn't remember them, he was just like a puppet pretty much. But he thinks that because Palm remembers them, that she is an ally. But he becomes suspicious again once he starts thinking about how come she couldn't use her power to find Gon, which that answer was never really given. But it was like I guess it was just reset somehow. I guess like I don't know, but he ends up questioning her about like how she found him or something, and she says like, "Oh, what do you mean? You're the one who like ran into me. You're the one who turned the corner." He's like, "No, you were watching me. You're the one who found me first." All right, and she, because of her lying to him, he's like, "Okay, yeah, you're definitely an enemy." And we learn later on that Poof was like sitting on her shoulder, so it was like he was on orders from she was on orders from him to go like follow Killua and like get information from him. Um, that's actually interesting because she wanted to know where Gon was, but doesn't Poof knows where Gon is, right? So why didn't he just tell like that's interesting. I don't get that. Like we see later on in the episode that Palm destroys that little mini Poof, and the other Poof, the one that's with Yuppie, ends up getting that information. So it's like it's like Naruto's shadow clones. When one gets destroyed, the main, well, not the main one. This case is not really a main Shower Poof. They're all Shower Poof. But when the little one gets destroyed, the one with Yuppie ends up getting that information that it was destroyed and like realizing it. So I would think that their memories are shared. Either that or he can just maybe it's not that their memories are shared as much as it is he can just tell when one is destroyed. And he just assumed that, okay, well, she betrayed us and the experiment was a failure. But if he it's the Poof that's with Yuppie knows where Gon is. The Poof that's with Gon obviously knows where Gon is. That little Poof seems to be the only one that doesn't. I guess it would make sense if he created that little Poof and just like had him sit there and wait for Pito to hatch. And then after that is when he found Gon, so that little Poof still didn't know where Gon was, and then he was trying to figure it out from Killua. But I mean, I don't know. That's this whole situation is kind of weird. I'll just give Togashi the benefit of the doubt on that one and say that he knows what he's doing. But yeah, I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Yeah, so Killua, where I forgot where I was for a second. Killua ends up deciding that Palm is an enemy, and Palm decides to fight him. She uses her hair as a like armor. And one thing I thought was interesting is that as soon as her hair started to like cover her body, become armor, the blood that was on her chest, that was on her like dress, disappears. Like it just miraculously disappears. Like, and you would think, oh no, actually no, you wouldn't. But I guess you could probably make the argument that maybe it got absorbed by the hair. That's stupid. No, no, that's stupid. Especially since the hair hadn't even gotten there yet. So like the blood just disappeared. And it's not like it was like blood on her body that disappeared. It was like her dress was stained with blood. So that's not something like you could just explain away. Like, oh, it just disappeared. Like, so I thought that was interesting that the blood just disappeared. But whatever. She uses her hair armor as armor. it serves as defense for her. So when she's fighting Killua, she can focus all of her enhancing powers on offense, and she destroys Killua's yo-yo, and then she pretty much destroys him. I mean, Killua was just not he was just not doing well here. He was just not doing well at all. All right. So he tried to buy some time and like figure out what he wanted to do. He tried to buy some time by just talking with Palm, but he ended up breaking down and unintentionally talk no jutsuing Palm. I have no problem with Killua crying. I don't have a problem with that because it makes sense. But how, like, how could I just don't get how Killua's words alone could. Okay, let me give you an example, all right, of what this feels like. This feels like last anime season, there was an anime called Magical Warfare, aka Maho Senso. And I dropped it like in episode 6 because it got really stupid, right? And one of the reasons it got really stupid was because there was this guy, Suganashi, and he had his memories altered by magic. So he forgot, so he was like pretty much fooled into thinking he was a part of this like evil group, all right? And his sister's trying to get him back, but his memories were altered with magic, so no matter how much she talks, he doesn't believe her. However, after she talks some more, and talks some more, and talks some more, her words are somehow capable of negating magic. Yeah, it makes no sense, right? Her words are somehow capable of negating magic, all right? And this is what it felt like in this episode, okay? Killua's words negated men. Like, usually in Hunter x Hunter, things make sense, all right? But and there are times when I don't necessarily agree with what actions a character takes, but I still believe that they make sense, you know. But this is just something that doesn't make sense because we get the explanation from the narrator about what happened to Pong. Pito and Pooh found her. They experimented on her, right? They turned her into Chimera Ant, obviously, right? And then they realized that from like different like the data that they had from like different Chimera Ants and everything. They realized that Chimera Ants that have their memories from their when they were humans or whatever animal that they were. Yeah, humans. Because even though Wolfen is like a Wolfen, even though Welfen is like a wolf, he was still a human in his past life, which is interesting actually. But whatever. They found out that the Chimera Ants that have memories from their past life as a human actually end up having stronger mental fortitude. However, when those memories get mixed in with emotion, they can sometimes hinder the Chimera Ants, like what happened with Welfen last episode. So, so what they wanted to do was create a bunch of soldiers out of the humans, right? So they believed that, well, they experimented on Palm to see whether or not they could create a perfect soldier where they got the advantages of having their memories, but none of the disadvantages of having the memories mixed with emotions. So what they did was they separated the connection between her memories and her emotions, right? So they can't, there's no connection there, all right? However, somehow Killua's words alone were enough to reestablish the connection between her emotions and memories. His words alone were enough to negate Ned. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you could say maybe Palm was responsible for it, like she negated the Nen somehow, but even then it doesn't make sense because why would the only way she would be able to do that is if she had like the mental force, if she had the resolve, just the desire to want to break that wall between her memories and emotions and go against Poof's orders and protect Gon. However, that can't happen because her emotions and her memories aren't connected. So the only way she could have that resolve and that desire is if her memories about Gon were connected to her emotions. Emotions alone can't do it. You won't like one emotions alone wouldn't make her go against Poof. The reason she went against Poof was because she wanted to protect Gon, which is a combination of her memories and emotions. The wall there doesn't allow that, yet she still managed to do it anyway. It just doesn't make sense, all right? It's just it just doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't like it when manga do this. I just don't like when manga do this when they have someone who's like being controlled or someone who's changed in some way, but then their friends or someone close to them starts to talk to them, and all of a sudden then they change their way. Stuff like if Naruto had gone into like Nine Tails mode, or like Six Tails mode, Four Tails mode, whatever, and talk was enough to get him out of it. That's like you've never seen that happen before, but yet now it's happening here. Like, well, I guess you could say Minato did it, but that's a unique situation there. Like this happened in Bleach, right? When Ichigo was fighting Ulquiorra, then all of a sudden he just like stopped because like or Hime and like Uri talking and stuff. Like, no, no. I hate this idea of like words getting through to you, and then all of a sudden that somehow negates these special abilities that were used on the person. It makes no sense. Especially here when there's literally a wall preventing that from happening, yet it happens anyway. They get over the way. It just doesn't make sense. It just didn't make sense, alright? It just didn't make sense. She reestablished the connection between her memories and her emotions. Went against Poof, destroyed him, the mini Poof. And like I said earlier, the other Poof got the memories of that, or realized that it was destroyed and made the deduction himself. And he decided that since the experiment was a failure, it's not worth it to continue. Therefore, he no longer has a use for Pito. Therefore, he can create soldiers on his own, and then use those soldiers to create a new kingdom specifically for him and Miram. So, looks like he's gonna drop Yuppie and Pito now. They're getting the axe. So, I guess he thinks that their changes are not going to be beneficial to the king. Obviously, he thinks that with Pito, but I didn't think he'd think that with Yuppie too. But hey, apparently he thinks that or maybe it's just him being selfish and being like being a Miram fanboy and stuff like that. Maybe that's it. Either way, he wants to create a kingdom that's just for him and Miram to rule over, or Miram to rule over him to serve Miram. So Pito and Yuppie aren't necessary in his mind. So that's interesting revelation at the end there. But the majority of the episode focused on Killua and Palm. I like the part where they actually talked about what happened to Palm. I like that. I like the ending with Poof. The stuff in the beginning with Killua and Palm was cool, I guess. Like when they were talking and then the fight started, like that. Just that entire section. But the stuff with Killua, like breaking the laws of Nen, like whatever. I'll give the episode a 7 out of 10. How about that? How about that? I'll just settle for a 7 out of 10. Most of the episode was a 7 out of 10 anyway. It's just like the end and the part and the flashback what happened to Palm is what I thought was like good and great. So yeah, I'll just give the episode a 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's it, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.